Pop in and tell Aaron. Hello and welcome back. Sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of technical difficulty with audio, but we're back again. So we're starting over from scratch. Again, my name is Nora, and on behalf of RLC Labs, I'd like to welcome you to Hypothyroid Hangout with Rudy Dragone. We're talking about all things thyroid. Rudy, thank you for having us. Again, this is our second round doing this.
Yeah.
So just to start the hangout off again, anything that is discussed here today is not meant to replace the patient-physician relationship, and any specific concerns should be taken directly to your doctor. So then, to hand it over to the man himself, Rudy, if you'd like to start again.
The whole atmosphere has gotten a little giddy because of the problems with the audio, but we'll start all over again and start by saying my name is Rudy Dragone. I am a compounding pharmacist. I have a pharmacy up in Carefree, Arizona. I've been working with hormones for over 20 years. I get calls from all across the country on problems with bioidentical hormones, thyroid issues, so on and so forth. My life is dedicated to hormones. I love everything about hormones, and to me it's been the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done. So that being said, let's get right to it and find out what is a hormone. A hormone is a chemical that's secreted by a gland inside of our body and has its effect on another tissue or another target tissue someplace else in the body. Okay? The biggest question I get all the time is, do hormones cause cancer? The truth is that when you look at hormones, if hormones cause cancer, okay, everyone that's young, like a young girl between the ages of 14 and 19, okay, they have the most amount of hormones in their body that they'll ever have. If hormones cause cancer, then they should be the ones that have the most amount of cancer. If a young man has the most amount of testosterone, for example, he'll ever have between the ages of 14 and 19. If hormones cause cancer, then they should be riddled with cancer. So why is it that cancer comes out? Why is it that people say that hormones cause cancer? Well, just like in everything else in nature, there are good hormones and there are bad hormones. When you're young, you have a lot to do with the good hormones. When you get older, like maybe it's nature's way of weeding us out or whatever, we make more of the bad hormones, okay? As that happens, the tendency for us to get cancer goes up. When you put that in consideration with the ideas that there are all these what we call xenoestrogens, or chemicals that are found in different types of plastics or in the environment, in gasoline, okay, that we smell from tailpipes and everything else that goes along with it, those all add up to be what we call the bad hormones. Well, I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you get that little top drawing I have up there. Up there, you'll see that I have a little drawing of circles and X's, okay? This one here stands for a cell that has receptor sites but has not committed to any hormones. We have hormones that are X's, which I'm going to call the bad hormones, and hormones that are zeros or O's, which I'm going to call the good hormones. If you surround that cell with good hormones, like we did here, and the good hormones get attached to the cell stays normal, grows correctly. If you attach it to the bad hormones like the X's, okay, and they get a chance to bind to that particular cell, that leads to cancer, okay? When you look at a young person, their body looks more like this right here. 90% of it is all good hormones, very, very little bad X's up on the top. So the propensity for them to have this is very small, and to have this is very big, and therefore they don't have any cancer. As a woman goes into perimenopause and later into menopause, she makes less and less hormones. And as she makes less and less hormones, okay, the body tries to compensate, and as it compensates, it makes the bad hormone, okay? and she is in a situation where she doesn't have enough to run the whole system, and of what she has, half of it is bad. So the propensity for cancer goes up, okay? So she goes to the doctor. The doctor may say, well, we need to put you on the synthetic hormones. The one a myriad of hormones that should be inside of a person's body. And the situation is that she fills her body with all of the bad hormones. And that leads right to the situation here where over time can cause cancer. So you say, do hormones cause cancer? The wrong hormones over a long period of time can cause cancer. Okay? That's the way that goes. Okay? Well, what happens if we take a person that is perimenopause here and then put in the good hormones that she had when she was younger? We identified them. We know which ones they are. Why can't we do that? Well, bioidentical hormones are not patentable. And because they're not patentable, the drug companies don't advertise, don't even tell the medical candidates for being doctors about them. And because of it, they were never educated in them. And that causes people to have to find information through sites like this that will help you understand what is available out there. Let me bring it back a little bit. I should have started this with a story, you know, and then I will get into the thyroid right after that. My father was 65 years old. It was about, he's 79 now. So it was about 14 years ago my father had a heart attack. And I was doing hormones, and I was working with other doctors, and I was getting a lot of information out to people as far as what the hormones can do to better people's lives. Once he had a heart attack, I said to him, I go, you know, Dad, come on out, you know, spend some time with the family out in Arizona, because he lived in New York at the time. And he said to me, he goes, you know, Rudy, I'd like to, but I can't. I go, why not? He goes, you just had the stent put in. He goes, yeah, I had the stent put in, but I still feel like I can't walk very much. So I went back to New York Hospital, back in New York, and we sat there with the cardiologist and the radiologist. And they both looked at me and they said, we're going to have to cut here, cut here, cut here, cut here. And I go, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean cut here? He goes, yeah, we need to do a quadruple bypass on your father. And I said, well, you know, my father's got diabetes. He's got a thyroid problem. He's got veins that are compromised, circulation that is bad. I go, you're osteoporosis. I go, you're going to break open his chest, maybe break a couple of ribs, then cut into his leg where he already has diminished capacity for perfusion of blood, okay, due to the diabetes. And then maybe he'll be better. I go, I don't think this is an option. And I was told at that time very vehemently, okay, by the experts, the cardiologist and the radiologist, who looked at me and put me, they went right to my face and said, hey, you know what, you take him out of here, okay, and he'll die. He'll be in the bathroom sometimes straining to get a stool out, and he'll die, and it'll be your fault. And I stood there and I said to myself, I went to my father and I said, Pop, I go, you know, this is what the doctor's saying, and I think we can do better. And I called my naturopathic friends and my allopathic friends, and we took him back. Actually, when I said this to my father, he said to me, he goes, my mother died at 24. My father died at 58. Maybe it's my turn to die. And I said to him, I said, you know, you should fight for every second of life that you have. This is a gift from God. I go, and this is what started me on my journey to be able to tell people about thyroid and natural thyroid and different types of therapies are out there, is because we took my father back and we brought him back to Arizona, and we did everything in our power. You know, besides prayer, there was thyroid hormone that helped him, and there was testosterone that helped him, and there was chelation therapy, and there was vitamin therapy, and there was exercise and good dietary prohibition for him, okay, to make sure that he was doing the right things with his insulin and everything. The man that could not walk 2 blocks without getting chest pains went past the 0.75 mile marker at Squaw Peak. And when he came back down, I looked at him and I said, I go, Dad, what's the matter? And he's there, and he's talking with to his hands. And I go, Dad, what's the matter? And he goes, thank you for saving my life. And since I got that message from him, I started saying to myself, I got to let people know what's out there. I got to let them know that there's a possibility that they're not getting all the information. And that's why we do these little things here with whenever I get an opportunity to do it. So now you get a little bit to know a little bit about myself, to why I want to push the issue of what we're talking about here. You see, there are ways for us to get you back to where you were before, okay? And there are ways to harm you, okay? We're not about to harm. We want to be able to get people the information. And you have to go out there and dig it up sometimes, you know, and we can help you by talking to different doctors and stuff. But there are ways to be able to go back to where you were before. When we talk about thyroid, and it's very important that we do so, because whenever we want to adjust anybody, there's step one. And that step one is adjusting the thyroid hormone, okay? Why? Well, let's say we had a perfectly balanced human being, and they had perfect hormones, perfect thyroid hormone, and we put them in a box somewhere, and we starved them. As we starve this person, the first thing that the body does is, I have to protect myself. And how do I protect myself? I protect myself by not expending any of my resources. Well, what are my resources? Food, okay? Nutrients, hormones, water. Everything that we can, we have to try to save. And how do we save it? We save it by, number one, okay, lowering our body temperature. And how do we lower our body temperature? We decrease the amount of thyroid hormone that's being made, okay? As we decrease the amount of thyroid hormone that's being made, then we decrease the temperature. As we decrease the temperature that's going on, we decrease the amount of food that's being expended, okay? Well, then what's the difference between a person that's starving and a person that's got hypothyroidism? Nothing. Nothing, because what happens is a hypothyroid person acts just like they're starving. They don't burn their food, they store it. So you get to a person and they say, well, why is this person gaining so much weight? I have a gland problem. The gland problem they're talking about is the thyroid problem, okay? Their metabolism is down. Okay, and it's not their fault. Okay, it could be a whole slew of different things that can throw off your thyroid hormone. Now you're going to get some doctors. They'll say, well, the only way to do this is to attack vehemently and give them T4, and others will say, no, we should do T3, or we should do a combination of T3 and T4, or we should do the natural ones. So what is the difference? Okay, well, I'm going to try to explain a little bit about that, about all of those things today. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. What is TSH? Thyroid stimulating hormone. When the body doesn't have enough thyroid hormone, it sends a message down to the thyroid gland saying, I need more thyroid hormone. That message is TSH. So people will come to me and say, I have to take more thyroid hormone. And I go, why? He goes, because my TSH is low. I go, no, you don't understand. If your TSH is low, that means that you're not sending any signals saying, I need more thyroid hormone, which means you have enough thyroid hormone, which means your TSH is low. When your TSH is high, it means that you need more thyroid hormone, and the body is calling for it. Now, what's the difference between a TSH of 5 and a TSH of 25, okay? Depending on the individual, and depending on what time, and depending on how they're being taken care of with their thyroid hormone, a TSH of 5 and a TSH of 25 can mean exactly the same thing. Okay? It is a call. It is a call from the brain to the thyroid gland saying, I need more thyroid hormone. The amount that's circulating in the body that reaches the nerve centers of the brain that checks to see how much thyroid hormone we have are telling us there's not enough. And we need more. So TSH is sent out. When that happens, T4 is produced. Now, what is the difference between T4, T3, T2, T1, TSH, thyroid, iodine? Okay. If you look at a car, we have gasoline. That's energy. For us, we have food that we burn for energy, but the way we burn it is by using our thyroid hormone to regulate how we burn it, okay? So we can say T4 is just like the gas in the gas tank. T3 is the gas inside the engine, actually doing the work, actually moving those pistons up and down. That's your T3. And that usually T4 gets converted to T3 at a target tissue, okay? Now, what happens after that gas explodes and goes out the gas tank, goes out the tailpipe? That's T1 and T2. T1 and T2 can go back up to the thyroid gland, okay? And interestingly enough, when we go T4, what does that mean? 4 iodine molecules. T3, 3 iodine molecules. T2, 2 iodine molecules. And T1, 1 iodine molecule. Okay? So the T1 and the T2 go back up to the thyroid gland to get recharged. And iodine is replaced back into that T1 and T2 to make more T4, as needed by the amount of TSH that's coming down. Okay? Wow, that gives us a lot of information. So now we have a person and they're gaining weight, okay? Should we add T3? Should we add T4? What do all the tests mean? And when we take the tests, you know, what does it mean that my T3 is at this level, my T4 is at that level? First things first, we have to really go back to how the test is being made. You have to say to yourself, when a lab does a test for whatever it is, and for argument's sake, let's just say T4, okay? There'll be 100 people, and of those 100 people, they all have levels, and they take top 5 levels and they discard them, and they take the bottom 5 levels and they discard them. And then they say, this is the level that we say is normal. Okay. If that's true, who goes to get a test for thyroid if you're feeling okay? Nobody. So who goes and gets a test for thyroid? People that are already having thyroid-like symptoms. So all of the people that are being tested already have hypothyroid symptoms. So when you decrease the people from the top or the decrease from the bottom, the whole amount of population that's there is already hypothyroid. So those levels that they're showing you are skewed to the low side to begin with. Okay, so when you look at that, you'll see, let's go back to TSH, for example. People say that anywhere between 0.45 TSH and of some labs to 4.5 is okay. Okay, so I got a 0.45 and I go to the doctor and the doctor says, you're fine, you're within the normal range. Well, doc, if I double my TSH to 0.9, am I still fine? Yes. And if I double that again to a 1.8, am I still fine? Yeah. And if I double that again to 3.6, am I still fine? Yeah. Well, how about if I add another 0.9, which is twice the amount I started with? Am I still fine? That brings me up to 4.5. Yes, you are. That's a very big range for someone to say that all of those things are normal. If you were running your whole life, okay, and you had a certain amount of thyroid hormone, you can easily get lost in between the levels, okay, to where you would be optimum for your particular thyroid hormone. So I tell everyone, I say, you know, the best thing to do, the best thing for all hormones, for all people involved, is to get tested when you're not having any symptoms. So get tested when you're young. See what your levels are of thyroid hormones. See where you are as far as all the other sex hormones are concerned. 20 or 30 years from now, when you're not feeling that good, when you're in perimenopause, when you're having all these other problems, you go back to the doctor and you say, hey, you know what? Bring me back to here. This is where I was 30 years ago. This is what I felt really, really good. This is what I want to feel right again now. Okay? I'm going to answer some of the questions. It says, what if everything is normal except only T3 is low? Okay? Then if a person has low T3 and you're being seen by a good physician, what you should do is you should slowly add T3 by itself. Okay? If you add T4, T3 combination, like the Nature-Throid, you could do so, okay, or the Armor. You can do it by using a 16.25, okay, slowly, okay, and increase it. Now, the way to increase any thyroid hormone is by increasing it no more than 16.25 milligrams every 10 to 11 days. Now, why is that? And this is probably one of the biggest problems I have with patients that call me and say, I'm done with my doctor, I don't want to deal with him anymore. And I say, why not? And they say to me, because he keeps increasing the dose and he doesn't know what he's doing. It's not his fault. You see, thyroid is very complicated. If you were to take a look at a pool table, for example, it has 16 balls, including the cue ball, and 6 holes, okay? If I throw all 16 balls across the pool table, 1 or 2 will sink. That's the way the thyroid hormone goes into the receptor sites and does its job, okay? But slowly, I start removing 2 balls every so often from that particular pool table. The body responds. It still wants 1 or 2 to sink. So what the body does is it responds by increasing the amount of holes on the pool table. At a certain point, I only have 2 balls left on the table and 30 holes on the table, and you still won't be feeling any thyroid symptoms. But once we go below that, okay, when you only have 1 ball, and there's no way of getting 2 balls onto those receptor sites, that's when you start seeing all of the symptoms that come with hypothyroid issues, okay? If that's true, could you imagine having a pool table that has 30 holes on them, and I put all 16 balls back on at the same time and throw them against the walls of the table? So many will sink so quickly, okay, that you start getting palpitations, that you get what's called almost like a thyroid toxicosis, okay? Too much thyroid being rushed into the body too quickly, okay, and the body starts hyperventilating and palpitations and all of the things that are caused with too much thyroid hormone. But turn to the patient and you say, look, because of this situation where we have to start shutting down these thyroid receptor sites, we're going to give you only 2 balls, and from 1 you got to 3. And after about 10 or 11 days, we don't have 30 holes anymore. We have maybe 25 holes. So then we give you another 2 balls, and then another 2 balls. But it's something that takes a long time for you to find the right dose. Now, the closer you get to the dose that you need, the longer it's going to take before you feel that the thyroid hormone doesn't work anymore. Sometimes when you give the person 2 balls in the very beginning, or the small 16.25 milligrams of thyroid, instead of having to wait 10 or 11 days, that person will start feeling like they're not taking enough thyroid hormone after 3 or 4 days, in which case you wait to the 5th day and you give them another 16.25. But slowly, by increasing at 16.25 every 10 to 11 days, you'll see that you'll get to a point where they won't have any palpitations, and at the same time, okay, they'll get to the point where they start to reach that 98-degree level, okay, start burning their food efficiently, okay, and everything that we need to do as far as the thyroid gets done without any of the palpitations. Question number 2. I have books and all of this info on my Facebook about thyroid. I've had Hashimoto's, hypothyroids, and now where can I find to read about the optimal numbers should read? So I have something to compare my numbers to regarding my blood work. Just would like some numbers to have a better understanding. Okay, Hashimoto's is a autoimmune disease that attacks the thyroid hormone. We've had to play a lot of problems with Hashimoto's, and it's very hard to get people regulated on thyroid hormone. The newest thing that's out there, okay, and there's no write-up on it, it's more anecdotal, is that because the Synthroid has a sodium salt to it, and the levothyroxine has a sodium salt to it, and the liothyronine, like in Cytomel, has a sodium salt to it, okay, that it needs different antibodies than the natural porcine thyroid. So one of the recommendations that we do is we'll start someone on a natural thyroid hormone. They'll get regulated, and after about 3 months or so, after they've been regulated, they have a high antibody titer. That high antibody titer then it looks as though the thyroid hormone isn't working. If you take that person and you switch them to the equivalent amount of Synthroid and Cytomel, you will see that their antibody titer starts to go down because it's a different animal as opposed to what the body thinks is in there, okay? And it'll take, again, if it took 3 months the first time, it may take close to 3 months or so before the antibody titer goes back up again, in which case you switch back to the nature thyroid and you actually give these people 2 different forms of thyroid hormone. And if you switch soon enough, okay, if you know that it's going to happen every 3 months and you do it in 2.5 months, okay, you're able to switch back and forth, and the person has a couple of days that they're not feeling 100%, but overall much less downtime. Because normally what would happen is a person would go to the doctor and say, I don't think this hormone is working anymore, and I don't think it's working properly, and it may take a month or 2 before they get to the doctor, before they change the dose, before they even increase the dose or do something, okay, to be able to adjust their not feeling well, okay? And then a few months later, if it's just changing the dose, it's going to happen again, okay? So that being said, every couple of months, they have a couple of months that are downtime. Whereas if you do this flip-flop situation, what will happen is they wind up having a small amount of downtime, 3 or 4 days, and in the course of a year, it can compare to having downtime of 3 or 4 months as opposed to maybe 3 weeks, okay? So when you look at doses and you look at levels, the levels are all the same, okay? You just have to look at where the antibodies are there. If the antibodies are high for the particular drug that you're taking or the particular hormone that you're taking, then you should switch to the other form to be able to get those antibody titers down. And interestingly enough, if you do that switch, what we found was if you do it fast enough, the antibody titers don't go up. They don't get a chance to speed it. They don't get a chance to go up in time. So if they know it's 3 months before they go up and they switch every 2.5 months, they never seem to raise, and the person doesn't have that much downtime. Okay. Also, how do I ideal test a blood test compare with someone who's been taking nature thyroid for many years to someone who's not hypothyroid? If you look at the blood test, the whole idea is, especially with nature thyroid, is to try to bring you back to normal as it would be for the human body. If you look at the blood tests, you want them to be as close to normal as it is, okay? I prefer keeping TSH at between 1 and 1.5 if I could, okay, if I could. And I like to keep the T3 and the T4 in the top 1/3 of normal range, okay? But if someone comes to me and they say to me, Rudy, I'm feeling great, but my T4 is right at the very bottom level. What is it telling me? It's telling me that a person is running a car, and there's someone outside the car that every pint of gas that they use, someone's pouring another pint back into the gas tank. So the gas tank level never goes down. It never goes down to 0, okay? But you could run a car like that forever, okay? Why? Because the T4, okay, even though I'd like it to be the top 1/3 of normal, if it's down low, but there are no symptoms, I leave that person alone. If anyone has no symptoms, okay, and it seems that are running correctly, okay, but they're not within the normal levels of what the numbers say they are, that doesn't matter to me. I tell everyone that should be 10% on how you gauge, especially the sex hormones. Thyroid's a little bit more complicated because of the axis with the adrenal function, but nevertheless, what I say, it should be 10%. 90% should be listening to the patient. Someone asked, what daily dosage of vitamin C should we take? Vitamin C and thyroid. If you take enough vitamin C, you'll lower your body temperature, okay? And that's a known fact, okay? The thing with vitamin C is that the body gets very used to getting rid of it. I have patients that call me and say, I'm going to be on a trip. I'm going to be traveling abroad. what would you recommend that I take as far as vitamin C to make sure I ward off a cold? And I'd say take 3,000 milligrams, okay, a day for 3 days, if you're not taking any vitamin C at all. But if you take that same patient and they're taking 500 milligrams of vitamin C on a daily basis, and all of a sudden they say to me, I need to do the same thing. I'm going abroad. What should I do? Now that person has to push it almost to 12,000 milligrams a day to be able to get the same effect. So to say to you there's a dosage of vitamin C that you should be taking, okay, you understand that if you start taking vitamin C, your body gets more readily apt to getting rid of it. And then if you take large doses of vitamin C and if you take it for a long time and then you stop, then people start getting symptoms of scurvy as if they had no vitamin C at all because the body got so used to getting rid of it that it creates a problem. My recommendation on a daily basis is 250 to 1,000 milligrams, but no more than that. And then if and when you need it for either a cold or something to that effect, you can increase it as you need it, okay? Can you take a multivitamin that has vitamin C in it to normalize T4 and T3 conversion? Okay. When you're talking about T3 and T4 conversion, there's so many different things that factor in there. How much iodine is being done? What kind of vitamin C that you're using? Is it a fast-acting or is it a slow-acting? There are so many different things that can be used in there that you cannot normalize it with just vitamin C. You have to have more than one piece of information to see where you're normalizing your T3 and T4. And this all goes with another thing. It's like T3 causes T4 to make more T3. So that if you take a supplement that has, like Nature-Throid, that has a certain amount of T3 in it, then it will help in the conversion of T4. Whereas if you take Synthroid or a T4 by itself, there's nothing there to help it become T3. Can I chew my Nature-Throid tablet or cut it in half for best results and take twice a day? Okay. First things first, can you chew it? Yes, by all means chew it. Okay. You should take it an hour before or 2 hours after you eat something. There are some patients that will call me and say, I'm taking a grain of thyroid and I feel really good in the morning, but then in the afternoon I seem to lose out. And I don't have it's not 2:30 in the afternoon, but it's more like 4 o'clock where I start to piddle away. I can't get in touch with my doctor. Should I be taking more thyroid? There's a good chance that you may need more thyroid, but only your doctor can give you that advice, okay? What I can do is you can take 3/4 of the dose in the morning and then take 1/4 of the dose 2 hours after lunch, okay? It's still the same dose that your doctor prescribed, and it seems to carry on longer into the evening, giving you still the energy. So twice a day dosing is advisable. Okay. There's a lot of articles out there, and one of the articles was talking about how antibiotics affect livestock and how these things then affect thyroid medication. We can go into conspiracy theories from now until the end of time, okay? There are a lot of things out there that are affecting us, and even drinking out of plastic bottles, okay, are going to cause us to have difference in hormonal function, okay? We have to deal with whatever we have in front of us. Because everybody is different, okay, we can't just make, general statements saying that the antibiotics are going to cause this or the antibiotics are going to cause that, okay? Too many political repercussions with saying anything like that. Eat organic, it helps. Okay, drink a lot of juice. Make sure that you have, especially if you already have a thyroid problem. Okay, do whatever is healthy. A lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, Rudy, you're not the poster child for health because you talk about a lot of the stuff that's going on and we believe you, but you're 250 pounds. How come you stay that heavy?" He goes, "Because I'm a normal person." You know, I'm just like one of you. I said, I love my pasta. I love to eat. I love to go drinking. I love to do everything that everybody else likes to do. I'm not, you know, I don't want to stand here as an Adonis. Can I become that way? Yeah, but what fun is that? You know, I look at things and I say, hey, I'm going to eat my pasta. I'm going to eat my sandwiches. I'm going to have a good time. Now I have to do something to counteract all that good time that I've been having. So if I'm going to stay up late, you better start eating a little bit of salad. You better start drinking some more water. You better start giving the right nutrients that go along with it. You know, here in Arizona, we have so many people that come to me and say, you know, I'm using my hormonal cream, but it doesn't work. And the first thing I do is I check tenting. I put the hand up there and I pinch like this, and I let go. And it's supposed to snap right back, just like it did. And so many people keep it up like that and they go, down. Well, they're dehydrated. If you're dehydrated, then what happens? Then you're not your body. It doesn't go, okay? It can't go, okay, because of the dehydration. So there's a whole lot of little simple things that go on, and people should really start realizing that. You know, remember when you were little, they used to say to you, don't eat candy. Why not? Because if you eat candy, it's going to spoil your dinner. Well, how many people diet by eating a little piece of candy before they sit down to dinner? If you did, it'd spoil your dinner. You will need three helpings of mashed potatoes. You need one, okay? So this is all common sense to me. When I look at the hormones, to me, it's all common sense because I look at it and I say, okay, patient comes in, she's feeling this way, we need a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. If you listen to the patient and you get the patient to tell you exactly what's going on, you're going to easily give more and more help to them than you would by looking at any lab test that you have. Okay, I get another question coming in, and it just went away. Hold on a second. I got another one here. Hi, I have hypothyroidism, and Synthroid is absolutely not helping with weight loss. I was wondering if I would benefit from using your product. My goal would be to come off the Synthroid altogether. Okay, first things first. Nutritional is not my product. RLC, I am not being paid by them. Okay, and I am not here as a sponsor for them, okay? I am here telling you about Nutritional because I'm a pharmacist that knows that if I give someone Synthroid, 1,000 people Synthroid, 300 people are going to call and complain to me. So, and if I give someone all these other medications, on average, for every 1,000, I get 300 people calling me and give me a hard time. And when I give the Nutritional product, maybe 30 or 40 people call me. And I said, why not give the product that I get less calls about? Okay, that's where it came from. So it's not like they're doing me any favors. I'm sponsoring it because to me it's a better product. Okay, they're in the. If you guys remember, a couple of years ago, we had a problem with natural thyroid. Okay, there was not enough out there. And the reason behind it was because the FDA, because of its natural consistency, the FDA says that we're allowed to have, they were allowed to make product that's 9 micrograms either higher or lower in T3 that they say they have in there, 9 micrograms higher or lower of what they say as far as a T4 was considered. Now, a grain of thyroid has 38 micrograms of T4 and 9 micrograms of T3. So in essence, what the FDA was saying is that if you have a grain and you have 0 T3, that's okay. But if you have 18 T3, that's okay too. And if you have 9 plus 38, 47, that's okay. And if you have 38 minus 9, which would be 29, okay, yeah, no, 30, okay, that would be okay too. And some thyroid manufacturers actually dip into that. And because they dip into that, the FDA says it's okay, but then the people that are taking the medication are going into hypothyroid problems. Another reason why I advocate Nutritional is because they don't. Okay, I've been there with the people on the lab, and I said, before I do anything with your product, don't see what you're doing here. And he said, basically goes, we don't vary it either one way or the other way. And that's great, because then you have real consistent product. And then I don't have to worry about getting the phone calls where people say to me, this stuff isn't working, okay? It could be that it's old, could it be that it's this, is it wet, is it, and all the other questions that go along with the other products that do have the problem, okay? Now I got another question here. It says, why do I have so much anxiety when trying to raise my nature thyroid? My blood work shows I need to raise it. Yes, you're raising it too high, too fast, too quickly, okay? No more than 16.25 milligrams every 11 days. Why? Those receptor sites that I was telling you about, the pool table story that I was telling you about. You're not ready to go up that high. And if you say to me, well, I did it by 16.25 and I still get the anxiety, the still attacks, well then cut that tablet in half. But it's a really small tablet. How do I cut it in half? Crush it. Put it in a little piece of paper, and then with a razor blade, divide the powder. Okay? You'd be able to divide it in powder. As long as you use one piece of that powder the first day, and then the other piece of the powder the second day, even if it's 70-30, okay, you'll get the full dose over the 2 days, and that'll be fine. Okay? Let's see. I'm currently taking a compounded supplement, 165 micrograms of T4 and 50 micrograms of T3. What would be the approximate equivalent of nature thyroid? I'm thinking of switching, but I would have to have close to the same amount, especially the T3. Thanks for the info. Okay. Every 100 micrograms of T4 is equivalent to 25 micrograms of T3. Okay? So that when you look at it, you say you can make combinations thereof, okay, to be able to move it from one to the other. And every 1 grain is equivalent to 100 micrograms of T4 or 25 micrograms of T3. So when you look at it, you say, okay, I have 165 micrograms of T4 and 50 micrograms of T3. Well, that means just for the 50 micrograms of T3, you need 2 grains. And then for the 165 micrograms of T4, you need 1 grain plus 2/3. So you need 3 2/3, okay, grains of nature thyroid to be equivalent to 165 micrograms of T4 and 50 micrograms of T3. Any other questions? Okay. Do the natural hormones increase the risk of cancer? Any hormone that is used that forms this to happen, the X's, okay, more cancerous conditions, can cause cancer. I'm going to pop out of the thyroid for a second just to talk about estrogen. There are 3 types of estrogen. There's one called E1, E2, and E3. Nice and easy, okay? When you look at, if we take Petri dishes and we put all of these different estrogens on different tissue, like breast tissue, like vaginal tissue, like uterine tissue, or cervical tissue, what we find is when we put the estriol in, okay, nothing happens. There's no growth of tissue. There's no changes, no nothing. It just stays the same. On a growth factor, on a scale of 1 to 100, it's known as a growth factor of 1, okay? But interestingly enough, okay, when a woman gets pregnant, the estriol levels go through the roof, 400 times that of a normal person. Why? Well, maybe it's God's way of protecting that little baby. Maybe it's God's way of putting that estriol in there so that it cannot be affected by the plastic bottle or the coffee or the cigarettes or everything else that we do to poison that little child. Okay? That's the estriol. Now, when you look at estrone, estrone has 3 different metabolites. And of those 3 metabolites, one of them, when it's onto vaginal tissue, uterine tissue, breast tissue, it causes more than 200 times more DNA splits, 200 times more mutations. Now, interestingly enough, when we go back to that young girl, her percentage of estrone, or the bad estrone, is maybe 0.3%. And when we look at the mom, okay, or that same lady 30 years later, okay, when she's had a few kids and now is got extra fat that's causing the estrone to be made, okay, her levels are 30 and 40%. And when we look at people that have cancer, they have 30 or 40%. So what does that tell us? It tells us that estrogen is showing its face. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's weeding out the people and waiting for the new crop to come in. I can't tell you how much I would want to be able to go into high schools and have all of these kids tested and tell them, say, take these tests, take these hormones when you're doing okay, and put these levels in a safe somewhere. 30 years from now, when you're having problems, go back to the doctor and say, hey, I want to be back this way, where I was back when I was younger, because my body was happy with these numbers, okay? And there's no reason why you can't be going back to that. And any other questions that we have? Whoop, she's coming back.
And I'm back. Before we wrap up, we do have one more question. We'll pull it up right now for Rudy to answer. Oh, actually, we already answered it. Do the natural hormones increase the risk of cancer?
Okay.
Okay, so I think given the initial technical difficulties we experienced, Rudy was very patient with us as we got that figured out and still gave a great hangout with really fantastic information we hope you all can refer to after this is done. We would also like you to make sure that you like the Nature Thread and Facebook, WP Thyroid Facebook pages, as well as the Clark's Pharmacy page, that's CLARK''S, and give them a visit at clarkspharmacyaz.com, as well as hormonasnaturales.mx for our Spanish-speaking friends. And be sure to head over to the Nature Thread and WP Thyroid Facebook pages to enter to win your own copy of Bioidentical Hormones, Replacement Therapy by Rudy Dragone. We're giving away 100 copies for you to win, as well as some other Nature Thread and WP Thyroid goodies. And if you'd like to give Rudy a call, feel free to call him toll-free at 877-450-0040. All this information will be available on our Facebook pages, so if you missed it, feel free to check it out there. Again, my name is Nora, and on behalf of RLC Labs, thank you so much again, Rudy,
thank you for having me.
For bearing with us and
It's been
taking
fun.
the time to talk. So stay tuned and be sure to check out our next Hypothyroid Hangout that will hopefully not have those technical difficulties. Thanks for joining in.